On behalf of Mr. Frederick Roundtree, Student Success, and CETL, thank you for joining us for this overview of the Student Planning Module in the Student Self-Service Portal. The registrar, Ms. Kathy Rutledge, will lead this overview.
Anyway, so it'll be single sign-on with your email address. And so I'm signed in as myself in a test area, and I've got the roles of a student, an advisor, and a faculty assigned to me. So my screen looks a little busier than the average person will have. And so from student finance down to enrollment verifications, and then financial aid, course catalog, and graduation overview. These are all the items that a student will see, and we'll cover that. Faculty will have faculty, and the advising piece is only, basically. And so this it's broken out, with a dashboard, and on the old, if you're familiar with the old web advisor, they used to just be links for the student to get to. And then on the left-hand side are menu items as well that you can, basically have those same sort of things as the dashboard over here with a few other things. I do have a couple of, so we can configure a little bit. I do have an external link to order. So we use a vendor for our official transcripts, so students can have a link right there to go to our vendor to order an official transcript. And then I have a link to the registrar's page for that'll go right to our frequently used forms page if you guys wanted to use that. So all right, so back to self-service. So I think I'll do the low-hanging fruit first, which is the faculty piece of it. Which is fairly intuitive. And so if you click on faculty, as long as your name's similar to Web Advisor, as long as you are assigned as a faculty person to a section, you will see all your courses by term, right? So here's fall, spring, and last fall with some test data I have in here. And very similar to Web Advisor, you can see the availability, the capacity, and what will be new this coming fall will be waitlisting. We are changing the terminology of what used to be called roster verification. It's called census certification, and you will see the date out here as to when the certification date opens and when it closes. You can click on, so I'm going to go into, we'll start with this one, institutional racism. You will see, if you click on your course, you will see who's on your roster. You will see deadline dates, basic academic calendar stuff. You'll see the number here as to how many are waitlisted. And so right now we have one student in there on the roster. You can export your roster, you can email everybody, or you can print it. The next tab is attendance. And so while we are not an attendance taking institution, it is an option if you do want to take attendance, and it's not available because classes haven't started yet. So let me just go back to one from spring. Let's try this. So here's what an attendance roster will look like. You can export it, you can pick your date. You can either do it one by one, or you can do an update all, update empty records to present, update empty ones to absent, and so on and so forth by date. I'm going to go back to a current term. Oops, I didn't need to go back there. It's okay. The next tab is the census, and it basically tells you it's going to open up on the 1st, which is the day after drop add, which is typically when when I start sending out the messages that the verifications are due. Then it tells you the due date, And it basically is going to ask you, we no longer have to, so we're not using the midterm grading anymore. It's all kind of built into the system. So you don't have to put a P next to everybody. You can just mark anybody as never attended. Of course, it's not going to go because it's not open yet. And then when you're all done, you click on certify, and that way it sends it, it updates it in the system. So I'll be able to check as to who's done their rosters and who hasn't. The grading piece is similar. Grading is not open because it's fall semester. Very similar to WebAdvisor. You can mark never attend, last date of attendance, put your final grades in. And when grading is open, it gives you the option. There's a tab for mid. Let me see if it's spring. Yeah, so there's a tab. So I went back to a course in the spring semester. You can click on midterms and hit your drop down for grades, last day of attendance, pretty self-explanatory for picking your grades. The next tab is permissions. And so actually, so faculty will be able to see, they can't really change anything, but they'll be able to see anybody that one of the administrative assistants has put in for faculty consent. If somebody's waived a prerequisite, they'll be able to see that. I don't have any data in here at the moment. Just you'll be able to see any kind of waivers. And then if there was a petition to get into a class required, you would see that kind of stuff too. And then you would also see waitlisting. And so I want to show you what that waitlisting looks like. I do have one person waitlisted in my current fall semester. And so up at the top here, it'll tell you how many are waitlisted. And then here's the wait list. It'll tell you what student is waitlisted and the ranking. And so it'll be important as we move forward that faculty don't bypass the waitlisting system. Then students will stop using it, and then it won't be useful anymore if faculty continue to sign people in. So that's the brief overview of the faculty piece. The student, so I'll do student next, and then I'll do advising. So the student can see all of these sort of things. This course catalog is kind of the old search for sections. And so I'm going to review that, but the important part is we don't want to send them to the course catalog. That's just the old search for sections. If you want to look for something, it's just a search feature. And we don't really want them to go and to build their schedule from this point, but it's a handy tool if you want to look for availability of courses and times and that sort of thing. But it will tell you if something's planned and so on and so forth. So it's just a basic kind of search. So I want everybody for advising and training to send students here to this student planning. And this is the part that I'm really, really excited about, that there's 2 steps to it. And so when you first come in, if you've got a schedule, you can see your schedule here. And so step 1 is to review so it's the old program evaluation. It looks very similar to what it was in WebAdvisor, but you can plan right from your program evaluation. So step 1 is to look at your program evaluation. It tells you you're similar to the old eval. It tells you your anticipated completion date, your major, any of your departments. It gives you sliding scales, kind of how far you are along. The green is completed, the light green is kind of in progress, and then the beige is planned credits. And so this starts out, if you've looked at evaluations before, you can see what's been fulfilled turns green. And so what I want to do is, as we go through their evaluation, is to look for courses. So for example, this one has 1 of 5 courses are completed. And so you can see the green that this one is completed, this one is in progress, and these two are planned. And so, and the red is obviously not started. So the beauty of the system is that you can either click on the search button and it will bring up all of these requirements, and you can search and plan. And so if I click on search, it'll tell you that this is planned. This one was already completed or attempted. This one is planned. This one is in progress.
Kathy, can you clarify what's the difference between planned and in progress? So planned, you just put it in your cart for future reference, or?
Yes, so planning is, so I've got the system built out about 6 years. So a student can plan it in a future, put it on their timeline for a future term.
Very cool.
Right? So just go back a second.
And is this based on calendars? Oh, sorry. Is this based on calendars that the departments give you for how they're going to sequence their courses?
So yeah, so I'm getting there. So there are, so I'd asked all the departments to give us their session cycles, what's fall only, what's spring only, what's fall and spring, and then kind of what's sporadic, right? And so it won't let you, so for example, let me see if, I'm not sure if I have that in there, but SOCH 306, I'm going to say add to course plan. This is the prerequisite, and then I can come in here and select a term. I'm going to say fall. I'm going to add it to my plan. Now, I don't have a bunch of prereqs, or I don't think I have the session cycles in here per se, but if I put it on fall and they have it marked as spring only, it'll say you can't put it on this term as it's a spring only course. So you can't add a course to your plan in the wrong semester. So it's going to be important that the departments keep their session cycles up to date as they go through. Does that make sense? Their curriculum changes. So in a sense, a student can literally, once they've declared, go through and plan every requirement for every term. And so what that looks like, so the step one is to look at your evaluation and requirements and plan your stuff. And then the step two is to plan and schedule. So when you click on the step two, which was, sorry, I should have gone home. Oops, sorry. This is the step two, which is the plan and schedule. You can register for your planned courses, view your plan, and request an advisor review. And so we kind of, want them to come back to this part and go to the plan and schedule. But there's like 3 ways to get to everything. And so the first part is the schedule, which is where you would register for your sections, and all the dropping and registering happens here on the left-hand side. So we're in spring semester, so dropout is over, so stuff is grayed out. But if you go to fall semester, you can see color-coded wise, these are planned. So beige is just like I mentioned before, beige is planned courses. The red text is a waitlisted course. And if you've got stuff, so for example, this is a planned course. This Anthropology 201 is planned. I could click on register and register from right here if I wanted to. This is waitlisted. I could drop from the wait list if I wanted to. And so I can register and drop and all that sort of stuff from the schedule kind of tab and see what the schedule looks like here in the layout. The timeline is where you see all your planned stuff. And so you can see your past stuff, your past grades, your future plans in future semesters. And you can remove planned courses and that sort of thing. You can, and then at this point, and so again, this is still from the student perspective, they can click on advising and they can click on, they can compose a note, they can request a review from their advisor. Request a review. All right, your plan is ready for review. They can put, you know, comment out here, please help me with schedule, and save a note. And then you can see all the history of the notes here that the student has put in. And the student can also view all their petitions and waivers. Here you can see I have an overload petition in that was approved. And so, so that is basically, so I just really love this feature. I just think this is the coolest thing, that there's no reason why a student can't plan out all 4 years very easily.
That's great.
Excuse me, Kathy.
Okay, go ahead.
There is a question in the chat.
Okay, sorry, I minimized everything so I could view my screen, but go ahead.
It says, what does it look like if you have a planned course that has multiple sections?
So a planned course is just that, a plan. And so you have to, it's not registration, so it's just planning. And so you have to actually add it to your schedule, right? And so let's see, you know what? I've not tried to put multiple sections out there. And so
I think I was just wondering if you would see that on this screen if there were multiples.
you probably would. You
Okay.
probably would. I haven't tested multiple sections and what that looks like yet. But as you guys get access to stuff, I can set up all kinds of scenarios if you want to test certain things. The beauty of the other thing is, once a student has their stuff planned out on the home area, this big blue button up here, if you've got stuff on your schedule, like just like the old Web Advisor, if you had stuff sitting in your cart, the section sitting in your cart ready to be registered, this will open up and then you can click on register. And then you can determine if you want to try to register for everything all in one fell swoop. So they can plan their schedule, and then when their time to register comes, they can just click on register for whatever courses they want to register for. And so, okay, so I think are there other questions before I move to the advising piece?
Yes, there's one more question.
Okay.
And I have a question as well. Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay, sorry, Dr. Dees. So this one is from, and thank you, Christina, for your question. And this one is from Keith Merritt. Also, how does a repeat course factor into the timeline?
So, right, so that's just planned courses. So if a student needs to repeat a course, they need to replan it, right? Shift it to another area. And so from the advising perspective, so it will show, I think I had one on my one program. Yeah, so like this says possible replacement, like I've set it up to repeat a course. I'm not sure what that looks like. Let's see.
Do you think it will alert you if you have an F that you need to repeat it, or you think you have to know that as a student?
Yeah, you would have to know that. I would think that, you know what, I haven't tried putting Fs in here, but if you put in an F, you know, once the term ends, you know, so if it was in progress, it would turn back to red saying not completed, right?
Okay, right.
So if I got an F in this senior seminar, it would turn back to red saying not completed, right? And so that would, they would have to replan it. It would say not started. There it is, not started. And so they would have to replan that course.
So my question was in WebAdvisor, when you wanted to change your major, you could change it and it
Yep.
would be, and you can do that here as well.
Well, it's not, you can't change your major, but you can view a new program, right?
Okay.
And so I only have a
Right, right,
couple
right.
programs in here,
Okay.
but the same kind of thing, the same thing is you can view a new program. And
I mean, it's great.
yeah, and you can try, but I don't think I have this one. It'll say no requirements in there if I do that, but so I only have a couple of degree audits in here. Right. Okay, so I'm going to go. So that's the overview from a student perspective. They can also apply. So we'll be applying for graduation. It's just very similar to what's on the regular form. They can select the term, the name, spelling, address, cap and gown size, any special accommodations, and so on and so forth. And so we'll have to kind of re-engineer that particular process. They can see grades by term, just like WebAdvisor. So I don't think there's much in the financial aid and the student finance area yet. But I'd like to go ahead and move on to advising, unless there's another question.
Well, there's one more question. Can they declare change their major in this program?
No.
And that was the question from
Yeah, so no, that no, yeah, we still, because with the requirements of multiple signatures and sign-offs and signing an advisor and all that sort of thing, that it is, yeah, student can't change their major.
Okay. And
go ahead.
I was going to just ask Dr. Dees if she had her questions answered.
I did, yeah.
Okay, great.
So I just clicked on the advising module. I also have myself set up as an advisor. And it came up to this kind of search button, and I have a little notification that you have one or more advisees who have requested a review. The beauty of this, I don't know if you guys remember the old WebAdvisor, you could not work with a student that you were not assigned to. In this new system, you will be able to. So you'll be able to either search for any student, or you'll see your list, or you can search for any particular student, or you can search by advisor, right? And so if a chair wants to come in here and look for, I was going to say you can look for me, but it's all going to be the same. But so you'll see all the students that are assigned to me so you can search by student or search by advisor. Let's go. Okay, so this particular student who's my advisee, you can click on view details. And it basically has kind of everything that the student sees, but in a tab form across the top here. The biggest change is that there's no advisor hold that's maintained in Colleague. It is now this advisement complete button in self-service in the student planning. And so when advisement is complete, you click on advisement complete and it'll tell you last advised by so-and-so on this date. Yeah. And you can click on review complete too. Okay. So you can see for this particular student that I'm working with, you can see their course plan. You can see their calendar, and that's kind of the same view that they have, or in a list view. You can scroll between what they have. I haven't done a lot of testing, but I believe that there is this, approval of their courses that they have scheduled. And so I need to dig into a little bit more of that piece. But you can see their timeline, just like they can see their timeline, the same view that they see. You can see their progress just like they do, and you can do the same things they can do with planning and searching and adding to the plan. The course catalog is just the basically the old search for sections. Here's a note. You can compose a note, save it, and that way you can have a history of advising notes, although I do see that it update failed. All right, so I need to figure out what that bug is. That's the first one for me. You can archive plans, like if you talk to students and come up with, and you've talked about their plan and you like it, select the review complete button to archive a plan. All right, so I'm not sure. This isn't quite going like I was hoping. I'm not sure what some of this is, but I have had that work before. You can see test scores. So their test scores would be anything from placement tests. The WPP shows up down in here under other tests. Admission tests would be, SATs and that sort of thing if they're coming in. You can see their unofficial transcript. You can see their grades just like they do. You can see their petitions and waivers just like they do. And you can see a graduation application just like they do. So it's kind of the same view that the student has, which I really, really, really like. And then at a glance, you can see who the other advisors are, the last date of advisement, what their programs are, their ID numbers, and so on and so forth. Anybody have any questions about that?
There's just one comment in the chat that says, Kathy, this is absolutely amazing.
I know, I'm so excited about this.
From Professor Kearns.
There's also 4 exclamation points. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. So I feel like it's fairly intuitive for students and for faculty and for advising. So my only concern is that I really, really want, so we can customize some of the verbiage. Like I put the word start here because I don't want anybody to go here and put stuff on their schedule and just fly in blind. But if they start here and do their planning, yeah, it just, if they do the first step with planning all their stuff out, and as stuff gets graded, then looking at their timeline and registering for classes, it just, I guess, so if you fail something, you'll see it or whatever, you know that you need to replan it or whatever. You can take stuff off, whatever. I mean, it's really, I love the fact that it's visual, right? And I love the fact that, yeah, it's very visual. And yeah, yep.
I did have a question, Kathy, but it may be for a different, maybe you'll get to it. But
Okay.
if the student requests, let's say they request a prerequisite override or something, would a chair get a list or an alert of that? Is that how that works?
And so the overrides in the system, because the chair has to sign off, so it'll just be a view only, so that process of overrides will still be the same. And when when your admin puts it in the system, you know, the faculty person can look in that course section to see who's had overrides, if that makes sense. And then as a chair, you can, because you can search for any student, right? Even if they're not your advisee,
Mhm.
you can search for any student and look at all their petitions and waivers.
Okay, but it wouldn't be something that I wouldn't be able to just say like accept it or approve it.
No, not
Okay.
yet. I think they've got a lot of things kind of in the works. And it kind of depends on our business process. So, I mean, there's things that so we could turn it on, but it would allow the instructor to override prereqs.
Oh, I
And
see.
so, and we don't really want the instructor to override. I think years ago, we used to allow that, and then adjuncts were putting students in classes, and yeah, it's
Right.
not good. So we kind of have that as a read-only area so that we can still follow our process. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so,
Kathy,
go
Miss
ahead.
Miss Marlene Lacey has her hand up.
Okay.
Yep, I have a question. Is there a way to put the sequence sheets in here?
Oh, so I'm glad you asked that. So in my mind, there is a phase 2 to all of this. So I think once we all become experts as to how this is working, they have something called a curriculum track. And so I don't know whether, and so a curriculum track is a 4-year sequence sheet, right? And so it has to be built out within Colleague. And then I don't know whether it's right here. So this load sample course plan will probably be grayed out or removed temporarily, but we could, so I was thinking probably next year, depends on how things go, we could build within Colleague that 4-year sequence sheet for some programs to start out with, and then load it on there for students, or a student can go ahead once they declare a major, load the sample course plan. I don't know what this is going to do, but yeah, we don't have a sample plan. So we could put together a sample plan and load it for students. And so that will be, in my mind, phase 2, or yeah, our office, we had to literally key in the degree audit system stuff all over again for the new system. And so yeah, it's going to be a lot of work, but that could very well potentially be something we could do, which is exciting.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, actually, I do have a question, Kathy. Did I hear you correctly? That you said that all faculty will have access to, in this advisement section, access to all students' records, and
Yes.
they will be able to do what the students themselves can do. And I'm wondering if that's the case, if I heard you correctly, is that a potential cause for concern for conflicting advisement and planning to a student?
So yeah, I hear your question, but I know when we implemented WebAdvisor, the model, folks were not happy because they couldn't see students outside of their own assignment, right? And so at the time, we wanted anybody to be able to advise anybody. So for example, if there's a student who is undeclared and potentially wants to be a math major, why should we stop that faculty person from looking at that student and advising them based on their history, right? And so, so yeah, so that's been the model, is that anybody could advise anybody. I mean, we still want to maintain advisors in the system, that's correct. But if students want to get advised about a potential major, we should not hinder that process. So unless something has changed, that's kind of the way that we were moving, because that's always been my understanding.
Right. So I actually, as I think I hear and I do agree that oftentimes it's better to see what students have taken and potentially what they can take in order for you to advise them correctly. But I'm wondering whether effecting the change in the system, whether that's a good idea, that anybody can go in and, instead of just advising them, that they can go in and actually do what the students themselves can do. That's what I'm wondering about. I don't know.
So Dr. Hambody, I believe this is going to be a topic for another meeting because, you know, in Mr. Roundtree's new position, I'm sure he's going to be looking at these things and having discussions with people, and, you know, there may be changes in the future. Mr. Roundtree couldn't be here today, but I think that's going to be a question for Mr. Roundtree, and we can get back to you on that. He will be reviewing this video.
Can I just pose a question, unless I have an understanding? I think I am understanding Dr. Hambody's concern also. So it's one thing to look and see. It's quite another then if so many people have the option and opportunity in advising that student to change anything in the system. So is it just I can see it, or can I make changes to it that may not have been approved by their assigned advisor?
Exactly.
I don't know. I think I'd have to test, you know, if a faculty advisor who's not somebody's assigned advisor makes a change.
Yeah, that just means anybody can go in and make a change. You can make 5 changes in one day.
Right.
And we know how our students have the tendency to not like what this person has to say. So I'm going to go over there and get advice from this person. And again, a visual only makes perfect sense, but it's the other piece that is the concern.
Right. And so I get that, but also that advisement. So the advisor who is assigned will still have to review and click that advisement complete and approve or deny those courses. So there's still stop gaps in there.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like it's something we need to continue to have conversation about. But I think it's important that you understand the concern, and I believe there's enough advisors on here that may have similar concerns. I know Dr. Hambody raised it. Perhaps others don't necessarily see it as an issue, but that was just a concern that I had. So thank you.
You're welcome. So do you want me to explore? So you're looking for a view only of non-assigned advisees?
You have the opinion of 2 people.
Okay.
There are many more individuals on this call. If they don't know who have advised, I mean, I've advised students in a long, long time myself. So I think it would be the frequent advisor, and I defer to all of you.
Right. And if I can just jump in, she's right, because we do in a sense have that situation. We have advisors, and then, you know, and I know, is Keith still on, Merritt? Because although, you know, he does his sports, but I'm the advisor of record, but he can go in and he can register a student over me. So, I mean, technically, you know, our athletes almost have 2 advisors. They have, you know, Keith, who's working with them, and then they have, you know, especially if you're talking about FYE students, you know, they have their faculty members that's teaching their class. So, you know, who has the power to click the button to register the student? You know, would it be Keith? And like I said, if I'm talking about Keith and myself, does Keith have it, or do I have it? So,
So
you
I
know,
would think that since you're both assigned as advisors, you both have that ability to click the advisement complete.
So situations that I find myself in that maybe align more with this is, so a student will come to my office, you know, I can't find my advisor, can you help me? And so then on my computer, I would have them to sign in because I can't see what they see. So they would sign in, I can see their materials, and then I would advise them. And then I would send an email to their advisor, but also since they have the power to advise themselves, they would do the advising. I myself, even though the student is signed in to their web advisor, I myself would not go in and change anything because I am not their advisor on record. I'm just there to assist. So even if in researching this, if it's sort of like, you know what, everyone does have access and everyone can click, when we start advising advisors, just letting them know that there is a protocol in place, that we don't want everyone going into the system to change, maybe establishing like best practices and best steps for communicating, especially with the freshman class, with people who are undeclared and going all over the place. But there needs to be either, if the stopgap can't be in the program, then it needs to be in the training. That's my 2 cents.
I agree with Brandy. I don't really register anybody. I'll use the same thing that Brandy just talked about. If they ever come and see me. So I just try to get them, especially when we're advising and registering for priority registration. That's really the critical piece, is to try to get them their student athletes, their class schedules in a given time so they can register and be able to compete in the sport as well.
So Ms. Williams has a question.
It's not a question, but I did want to chime in.
Okay.
That I think it's important to keep in mind and to plan for the students who might miss registration, and then professors are gone or advisors are gone. Because what happened for me and my colleague was that we were trying to track down students who had not registered, and sometimes they were saying that they've been trying to reach out to their advisor and their advisor is not responding. And it was incredibly helpful for the student to be able to meet with myself or my colleague and work out a schedule and then send that information, to go ahead and get them registered. And I realized that may not be a large percentage of students, but there are a percentage of students who do miss the registration deadlines, and then that kind of crashes into when professors leave campus. So I hope we can keep that in mind in our planning.
Thank you.
I would like to just chime in just a little bit. The one thing that I think it could be problematic is when majors have selectives. And I'll give you an example for health sciences. A student can take Chem 101, Chem 103, or Chem 120. And so the conversation is, what are you doing after Lincoln? And depending on their plan, they might need to take Chem 103 because that's the chem that's going to get them into grad school. But they come in, maybe they didn't have an advisor from health science, and because our sheet says Chem 101, Chem 103, or Chem 120, an advisor can say, well, just take Chem 120 because Chem 120 is Chem for health sciences. So I think that there needs to be some type of stipulation there, because then the students come back to health science and they're like, well, I took Chem 120 and I can't get into grad school, but my advisor or whoever they were advised told them 120. Technically, the person that told them that is not incorrect, because they will get their degree from Lincoln, but now they're missing their prereqs for graduate school. So I think taking that into consideration as well when we are advising and determining who's allowed to change things. Some sometimes there's a reason I put them in that harder chem because they want to go to grad school.
Thank you, Dr. Riddick. And
So I think we still need to explore like some of the notes, the approval, the denial of certain courses, and being able to capture whatever that plan is. So I feel like there is a place that can be communicated and documented for the student and for the advisor, major advisor of record, that you had the conversation about needing this particular course. So I just want to keep that in mind. But we can explore that further with testing, you know, as to who can do what.
Are there any other questions or comments? Or Kathy, do you have anything else to show us?
Nope, I think that's about it.
Okay, then. I want to thank you all for attending. We will be working on the marketing and training plan, and I'm sure there'll be more meetings around this as IT and the registrar work out the kinks and with input from Mr. Roundtree. And again, thank you all. We appreciate you. Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.